My sister's husband uninvited me from Thanksgiving because I'd ruined the vibe. The next morning, he showed up in my office and realized I'm his new boss. The phone call came on a Tuesday evening while I was reviewing quarterly reports for our Boston office. Mom's voice had that particular strain I'd learned to recognize over 33 years. The tone she used when delivering news she knew would hurt, but had already decided was necessary. "Honey, about Thanksgiving this year," she began, and I could hear her moving to a quieter room, away from Dad, presumably. "Just say it, Mom." I kept my eyes on the spreadsheet in front of me, watching the numbers blur slightly. Ashley's new husband, Trevor, well, he's still getting comfortable with the family dynamics, and he thinks it might be better if you sat this one out. He feels like your presence might create an uncomfortable atmosphere, given your success and everything. I said nothing. The silence stretched between us like a chasm. "You understand, don't you?" Mom's voice carried a pleading edge now. "It's just one holiday. Maybe Christmas will be different." "Sure, Mom. Whatever makes everyone comfortable." I ended the call before she could offer more justifications. My coffee had gone cold. Outside my apartment window, Manhattan glittered with 1,000 lit windows, each one representing someone working late, building something, becoming someone. I'd chosen this life deliberately. Moved here at 22 with 2 suitcases and a job offer that paid barely enough to cover rent in a 5th-floor walk-up in Queens. My younger sister Ashley had always been the family favorite. Where I was ambitious and focused, she was warm and spontaneous. Where I built a career, she built a home. Our parents never quite knew what to make of me. Their daughter who chose boardrooms over playdates, who worked weekends, who seemed more interested in performance metrics than family dinners. Ashley had married her high school sweetheart at 21, divorced him at 28, and spent the next several years dating men who were, in Dad's words, works in progress. Trevor was her latest attempt at happiness. A regional sales manager she'd met at a conference in Atlanta 6 months ago. They'd been married for 4 months. What none of them knew, what I deliberately kept from family conversations and Facebook updates, was the exact nature of my work. To them, I had some corporate job in New York. Mom told her friends I worked in business development, which was technically accurate, the way saying someone works with animals could describe both a zookeeper and a veterinary surgeon. I was the chief operating officer of Hartman Industries, one of the largest pharmaceutical distribution companies on the East Coast. My signature appeared on contracts worth hundreds of millions. My decisions affected supply chains across 17 states. And as of 6 months ago, I've been overseeing the acquisition of smaller regional distributors, consolidating our market position. Trevor worked for MedSupply Solutions, a mid-sized distributor based in Pennsylvania. I knew this because I'd reviewed the preliminary acquisition documents 3 weeks ago. His name had appeared on their organizational chart, Regional Sales Manager, Northeast Territory. Within the next 2 days, his company would receive our official acquisition offer. In 6 weeks, if all went according to plan, Trevor would be working for me. But I hadn't connected the dots until Mom's phone call. Trevor had my sister's maiden name on all his social media, and Ashley's post tagged him as Trevor, with no last name visible unless you dug deep into his profile. His last name was Morrison. I'd simply never put the pieces together because work and family existed in completely separate universes for me. The irony was exquisite. The man who thought I'd ruined the vibe of Thanksgiving dinner was about to have his entire career placed in my hands. I spent that evening reviewing everything we had on MedSupply Solutions. Trevor Morrison had been with the company for 6 years, working his way up from a sales associate position. His performance reviews were adequate. Nothing spectacular, but nothing concerning. He managed a team of 8 and had hit his targets 3 out of the last 4 quarters. He was, in every measurable way, perfectly average. The acquisition meeting was scheduled for Thursday morning at our Manhattan office. MedSupply's CEO Linda Brennan would be attending, along with their CFO and several department heads. Standard procedure dictated that regional managers wouldn't typically be present for initial acquisition discussions, but Linda had specifically requested that her key sales leaders attend to answer any operational questions. Trevor would be there, in my conference room, sitting across from me. I call my executive assistant at 7 the next morning. "Jessica, for tomorrow's MedSupply meeting, I want name placards at each seat. Make them prominent, and send me the complete attendance list by noon." "Of course. Any particular reason for the placards?" "We don't usually. I want everyone to know exactly who they're dealing with. I could hear the smile in my own voice. Thursday morning arrived with the kind of crisp November weather that makes New York feel alive. I dressed carefully, a navy suit from Milan Boutique, heels that added 3 inches to my 5'9" frame, and the Cartier watch Dad had given me when I made VP 5 years ago. He'd looked uncomfortable giving it to me, as if success in a daughter required a different kind of celebration than he was prepared for. The Med Supply team arrived at 9:30 for our 10 o'clock meeting. I watched them on the security feed as they checked in at the lobby, noting the way Trevor adjusted his tie repeatedly and whispered something to a colleague. They looked nervous. Good. Jessica escorted them to the 14th floor conference room, offering coffee and water while they waited. I gave them 10 minutes to settle in, to look around at the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Fifth Avenue, to see our company logo dominating one wall in brushed steel letters. Everything about that space was designed to project power and permanence. I entered with my acquisitions team. Richard Foster, our CFO, Margaret Shun, head of operations, and David Park, chief legal counsel. We moved as a unit, carrying tablets and folders, projecting the absolute confidence of people who held every advantage. Trevor saw me immediately. I watched his face cycle through confusion, recognition, and then complete, obvious horror. His mouth literally fell open. The folder in his hand slipped, and papers scattered across the polished walnut table. Good morning, everyone. I took my seat at the head of the table, directly opposite Linda Brennan. Thank you for making the trip from Pittsburgh. I'm sure you're all eager to discuss how Hartman Industries can provide a path forward for med supply solutions. Linda, a sharp-eyed woman in her early 60s, smiled professionally. We're very interested in hearing your proposal. I brought some of our key personnel to provide insight into our operations. She gestured around the table. Our CFO, Thomas Wright, our operations director, Sharon Vale, and several of our regional sales managers, including Trevor Morrison, who oversees our Northeast territory. Trevor had gone pale. Actually, genuinely pale. He started to stand, then sat back down. His hands gripped the edge of the table. Mr. Morrison, I met his eyes directly. I've reviewed your performance data. Solid numbers in Q2 and Q3. That territory has significant growth potential. He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. This is something wrong? Margaret Shin looked at him with professional concern. Trevor stood abruptly, his chair rolling backward. I need bathroom. Excuse me. He practically ran from the room. Linda frowned. I apologize. Trevor's normally much more composed. The acquisition news has everyone a bit on edge. Perfectly understandable, I said smoothly. These transitions create anxiety. Shall we begin with the financial overview while Mr. Morrison composes himself? Trevor didn't return for 30 minutes. When he finally slipped back into the room, he'd sweated through his shirt collar and looked like he might vomit. He avoided my gaze completely, staring at the table in front of him as if it held the secrets of the universe. The meeting proceeded exactly as planned. We outlined our offer, generous in some ways, ruthlessly specific in others. Hartman Industries would acquire 100% of Med Supply Solutions assets. Current leadership would remain in place during a 6-month transition period. After that, organizational restructuring would be evaluated on a case-by-case basis. I made sure to emphasize that last point while looking directly at Trevor. We value talent and proven performance, I said. Those who demonstrate value to the new organization will find opportunities for growth. Those who don't meet our standards will obviously need to pursue other options. Trevor actually whimpered. The sound was quiet, but in the hushed conference room, several people heard it. A few heads turned his direction. When the meeting concluded, Linda approached me with a firm handshake. This is excellent work. I think we can move forward productively. She paused. May I ask? Trevor seemed to have some kind of reaction to you. Do you two have history? You could say that. I smiled. He's married to my sister. Linda's eyebrows shot up. Your sister? And he didn't know you were. We keep family and business separate. Or at least I do. I handed her my card. Have your legal team review our proposal. We can schedule a follow-up for next week. As the Med Supply team filed out, Trevor lingered near the door. He looked like a man heading to his own execution. Ms. Hartwell. His voice cracked slightly. Could I speak with you privately? I checked my watch. I have 15 minutes before my next meeting. The room cleared. Trevor closed the door and turned to face me, and I could see him struggling to find words. You're Ashley's sister. Her older sister who works in business development in New York. He said it like an accusation. That's what I tell the family. They're not interested in the details of corporate operations. I remained standing, keeping the power dynamic clear. They're going to fire me. His voice was flat. That depends entirely on your performance and value to the organization post-acquisition. Ashley said you were successful, but she didn't. He ran his hands through his hair. Jesus Christ, you're the COO of Hartman Industries. And I told her you'd ruin Thanksgiving. I said you were too caught up in your own success to care about family. Is there a question in there somewhere, Mr. Morrison? He flinched at the formality. Are you doing this because of what I said? About Thanksgiving. I'll let the silence stretch for a long moment. Let him squirm. I didn't know you worked for Med Supply until after my mother's phone call, I said finally. The acquisition has been in progress for months. Your employment situation has nothing to do with family politics and everything to do with whether you're an asset worth keeping. But you could fire me now. You can make sure I'm cut in the restructuring. I could. I picked up my tablet. The question is whether you've given me a reason to. Trevor's face went through several expressions: fear, anger, calculation. What do you want? I want you to do your job competently. I want you to prove you're worth the salary Med Supply pays you. And I want you to understand that your position in my family gives you exactly zero leverage in this building. And Thanksgiving, I smiled then, and it wasn't kind. That's a family matter. I suggest you discuss it with your wife. He left looking shell-shocked. I had another meeting in 20 minutes, so I pushed the entire interaction into a mental compartment labeled handled and moved on with my day. Ashley called that evening while I was at the gym. I let it go to voicemail, then listened to the message while cooling down on the treadmill. Nat, it's me. Trevor just got home, and he's freaking out about something at work. He says you're his new boss? That can't be right. Call me back, please. This is really confusing. I finished my workout, showered, ordered Thai food, and called her back at 8:30. Explain to me what's happening. Ashley's voice had that edge of panic she got when life stopped following her script. Trevor says you're some big executive at the company buying his company. Is that true? Yes. Yes? Just yes? Nat, what the hell? You never said you were. We thought you did like marketing or something. I'm Chief Operating Officer of Hartman Industries. We're acquiring Med Supply Solutions. Trevor attended the initial meeting this morning. I kept my voice neutral. Factual. Oh my God. Oh my God, Nat. Is he going to lose his job? We have a mortgage. Emma needs braces. Noah's in that special reading program that costs. His job status depends on his performance, just like everyone else in the organization. Performance? He's great at his job. He's been promoted twice. Then he has nothing to worry about. I paused. How was Mom's call to you? Did she mention uninviting me from Thanksgiving? Silence. Complete silence on the other end. Ashley, that was Trevor's idea. Her voice had gone small. He said it might be awkward having you there because you're single and successful, and he didn't want Mom and Dad making comparisons all day. I thought he was being silly, but Mom agreed it might be easier, and I went along with it. You went along with uninviting me from family Thanksgiving because your husband of 4 months felt insecure. When you say it like that, it sounds terrible. How else should I say it? More silence, then. Can you please not fire him? Please. I know we screwed up about Thanksgiving, and I'm sorry, but Trevor's a good guy. He's good to me and the kids. He made a mistake. I thought about Trevor's face in that conference room. The fear. The realization that the world was not arranged the way he'd assumed it was. I'm not going to fire him, Ashley. Not unless he gives me a professional reason to. But I need you to understand something. My career, my position, the work I do, that's not something I'm going to downplay or hide so that other people feel more comfortable. I never asked you to. You've been doing it for years. Oh, Nat has some job in New York. Nat's too busy to come home for Easter. Nat's so focused on work, she forgot what matters. I've listened to it every holiday for a decade. Ashley's breath hitched. We just don't understand your life. It's so different from ours. Have you ever tried to understand it? Asked what I actually do? Shown any interest beyond whether I'll be at the next family gathering? No response. Tell Trevor to do his job well, and he'll be fine. Tell Mom and Dad I'll be spending Thanksgiving in New York. And Ashley, maybe think about why your husband's first instinct was to exclude me rather than get to know me. I ended the call before she could respond. The next 3 weeks were a whirlwind of due diligence, contract negotiations, and integration planning. Trevor kept his head down and performed adequately. Nothing spectacular, nothing worth firing him over. He was professional in all our interactions, which were mercifully few. The week before Thanksgiving, Dad called. "Your mother's upset about the holiday situation," he said without preamble. "Says you're not coming home." "That's correct. Because of Ashley and Trevor." "Because I wasn't invited, Dad." "There's a difference." He sighed, that particular sound of male discomfort with emotional complexity. "Your sister feels terrible. Trevor feels like an idiot. Your mother's been crying. And yet nobody thought to actually call and re-invite me." "Interesting. I'm calling. Come home for Thanksgiving. We'll all sit down and work this out like adults." "Will we?" "Will Trevor apologize for deciding I was too successful to include? Will Ashley acknowledge that she chose her new husband's comfort over her own sister? Will Mom admit she took the easy path instead of defending her own daughter?" Dad was quiet for a long moment. "When did you get so hard, Natalie?" The question landed like a punch. When I realized being soft meant being erased. When I understood that my accomplishments made everyone uncomfortable. When I learned that success in a woman is something families tolerate rather than celebrate. "That's not fair, isn't it?" When I made VP, Mom's first response was, "That's nice, honey, but don't you want to settle down?" When I bought my apartment in Manhattan, you asked if I was sure I could afford it. When I got promoted to COO, Ashley said I was married to my job. None of you have ever just been proud. We are proud. You're uncomfortable. There's a difference. I softened my voice slightly. "Dad, I love you. I love all of you. But I'm tired of shrinking myself so everyone else feels adequate. I built something real here, and I'm not going to apologize for it." He cleared his throat. "What if we do apologize? What if Trevor and Ashley and your mother all say they're sorry, and they want you at Thanksgiving? Then I'll consider coming home for Christmas. But not Thanksgiving." I made other plans. I hadn't, but I would. Dad accepted this with the resignation of a man who knew he was outmaneuvered. "Your mother won't like it. My mother will survive. Give Emma and Noah my love." Thanksgiving Day, I volunteered at a soup kitchen in Queens. The nonprofit director, a fierce woman named Carmen who'd built the organization from nothing, reminded me why the work mattered. We served 400 meals. I got gravy on my cashmere sweater and laughed more than I had in months. My phone buzzed constantly, texts from Ashley, calls from Mom, even a message from Trevor that said simply, "I'm sorry. I was an idiot. You deserve better." I responded to that one. Yes, I did. Do better. The Med Supply acquisition closed the week after Thanksgiving. Linda Brennan stayed on as a regional president. Most of the staff kept their positions. Trevor remained as Northeast Regional Sales Manager, reporting to a new VP I'd hired from our Chicago office. During a routine check-in with our new VP, Marcus Henderson, I got the fuller picture. "Morrison's an interesting case," Marcus said, leaning back in his office chair. "He's competent enough, but there's something else going on with him. He stays late every night, comes in early, double-checks everything before it hits my desk. That sounds like dedication. Or terror." Marcus gave me a knowing look. "His colleagues mentioned something about a family connection to you." "True. He married my younger sister in July." Marcus whistled low. "That explains the hypervigilance. He's trying to prove he's not getting special treatment." "Is he getting special treatment?" "Hell no. If anything, I'm harder on him because of the connection. Don't want anyone thinking nepotism flows upward." He pulled up something on his computer. "But here's what's interesting. His Q4 numbers are tracking 22% above his Q3 performance. His client retention is up. He closed 2 deals last week that his predecessor had marked as dead ends. I considered this carefully. So fear is working as a motivator. For now. But sustainable performance comes from confidence, not anxiety. The guy needs to understand that doing good work is enough. Talk to him. Let him know where he stands. Use actual metrics, not vague reassurances." Marcus nodded. "Will do. And for what it's worth, whatever family drama preceded this situation, he seems to genuinely respect you now. Mentions you in team meetings sometimes. Ms. Hartwell's standards, the COO's expectations. It's almost reverential." That evening, I did something I rarely allowed myself. I scrolled through Ashley's Facebook feed, looking at the family life I'd kept at arm's length for years. Photos of Emma's dance recital. Noah dressed as a dinosaur for Halloween. Ashley and Trevor at some charity event, both smiling. There was a post from 3 weeks ago, right after the acquisition announcement went public. Ashley had shared a news article about the Hartman Med Supply merger with the caption, "So proud of my brilliant sister. She's changing the industry." The comment section was filled with responses from relatives and family friends. Aunt Paula, your sister is absolutely remarkable. Dad's brother, Uncle Keith. That's our Natalie. Even Mom had commented, she's always been extraordinary. We're blessed to have her. But there was a darker thread, too. A cousin I barely knew had written, must be nice to have all that power. Hope she remembers where she came from. Ashley had responded with a fierce defense. She remembers perfectly, and she's never acted superior about any of it. We forgot to celebrate her properly. I closed Facebook feeling oddly emotional. My sister was fighting battles on my behalf that I didn't even know needed fighting. 2 days later, at the post-closing dinner, Linda Brennan pulled me aside during the cocktail hour. Trevor's wife called me last week, Linda said, swirling her martini. Ashley, right? She wanted to know if her husband's job was secure. What did you tell her? That he's competent at what he does, and competent people keep their jobs. Then I told her she'd raised an interesting question. Was he being evaluated on his merits or his family connections? Linda's expression sharpened. She didn't like that much. Got defensive. Said Trevor worked hard and deserved to be judged fairly. How did you respond? Told her that's exactly what was happening. Fair evaluation. No favoritism in either direction. She paused. She also asked me something else. Wanted to know if you were the vindictive type. The question hung in the air between us. What did you tell her? That in my 15 years of working with you across 3 different companies, I've never seen you make a decision based on personal feelings. You're ruthless about results, but fair about people. Linda took a sip of her drink. Then I asked her why she was worried, why she thought her sister might be vindictive. And she got quiet. Then she said something interesting. She said, we hurt her. I hurt her. And she had every right to hurt Trevor back, but she didn't. Started crying right there on the phone. I felt something twist in my chest. She called you crying? Full breakdown. Apologizing to me, a stranger, for how her family treated you. Said she'd spent years being jealous of your success instead of proud. That she'd let her husband uninvite you from Thanksgiving because it was easier than confronting her own insecurity. Linda's voice softened. I told her that relationships worth having are relationships worth repairing. That you'd given Trevor a chance to prove himself rather than destroying him. That speaks to character. He's doing well then. He's doing very well. But Natalie, and I'm speaking as your friend now, not as a colleague. How are you doing? This can't have been easy. The question surprised me. In a corporate world, personal feelings were things you managed privately. Vulnerabilities you never exposed. I'm Fina. It's been complicated, but I'm handling it. You're always handling it. That's not the same as processing it. She set down her glass. For what it's worth, I think you played this perfectly. You maintained professionalism while allowing natural consequences to unfold. Trevor learned something important. Your family learned something important. And you stood your ground without compromising your integrity. December arrived with its usual chaos. I worked 12-hour days and loved every minute. The office threw its annual holiday party at a venue in Tribeca, and I made my obligatory rounds, chatting with department heads, thanking team members. Trevor attended with several other regional managers. I watched him from across the room, noting how he seemed to relax as the evening progressed. He laughed at someone's joke. He didn't look toward me every 5 seconds like he had during the first few weeks post-acquisition. Marcus Henderson approached me near the end of the party. Morrison asked me something today. Want to know if it would be inappropriate to give you a Christmas card. I raised an eyebrow. What did you tell him? That I wasn't going to advise him on family dynamics. But professionally speaking, holiday cards from regional managers to executives aren't unusual. Marcus grinned. He turned bright red and said it wasn't about being professional. It was about being personal. Then he asked if you were the type to appreciate genuine apologies or if you should just leave well enough alone. You're enjoying this way too much. Can you blame me? The drama is better than anything on television. He grew more serious. But genuinely, he seems to be grappling with how to navigate the situation. He respects the boundary between personal and professional, but he also clearly wants to make amends on a family level. Later that week, a card arrived at my office. Jessica brought it in with the afternoon mail, and I recognized the handwriting on the envelope immediately. Neat, careful, unfamiliar. Inside was a simple Christmas card with a winter landscape on the front. The message inside was written in the same careful hand. Natalie, I don't know if this is appropriate or if you'll even read it, but I needed to try. I've spent the last month understanding just how badly I misjudged you and how much damage my insecurity caused. You've been nothing but professional and fair, which makes my behavior even more inexcusable. I convinced Ashley to exclude you from Thanksgiving because I felt threatened by your success. I told myself it was about family dynamics, but really it was about my own inadequacy. Meeting you, really meeting you, understanding who you are and what you've built, showed me how small I'd been. You could have destroyed my career. You had every justification. Instead, you held me to a standard and trusted me to meet it. That's leadership. That's integrity. I'm working every day to prove I deserve the chance you gave me. I'm also working every day to be the kind of man your sister and her children deserve. Thank you for both the professional opportunity and the personal lesson. Merry Christmas, Trevor. I read the card 3 times, standing in my kitchen with my coat still on from the commute home. It was a good apology, specific, taking full ownership, acknowledging harm without making excuses. I tucked into my desk drawer and didn't respond. Some things deserve acknowledgement without reply. 2 weeks before Christmas, Ashley called. I need to say something, and I need you to let me finish before you respond. Her voice was steady, determined. I've been a terrible sister, not just about Thanksgiving, but for years. I've been jealous of your success, and instead of being happy for you, I've minimized it. I let other people minimize it. I've acted like your career was less important than my family, when the truth is you built something incredible and I've never acknowledged it. I sat down on my couch, phone pressed to my ear, saying nothing. Trevor told me what you said to him about proving his value and doing his job. He said you could have destroyed his career, and instead you held him to a standard. He said that's what real leaders do. She paused. He's been different since the acquisition. More focused, more humble. He comes home and talks about work stuff he's learning. It's like meeting you forced him to grow up. Ashley, I'm not done. Mom and Dad and I have been talking, really talking, about how we treated you. About how we've never really celebrated who you are and what you've accomplished. And we want to change that. We want to do better. My throat tightened. That's a nice sentiment. It's more than sentiment. Dad Googled you. Like really Googled you. He found that article in Forbes about women in pharmaceutical leadership. He printed it out and put it on the refrigerator. Mom's been telling everyone at church that her daughter is a COO. She actually understands what that means now. Despite myself, I smiled. How's Emma? Missing her aunt. She made you a Christmas card. It's got glitter everywhere. Fair warning. Ashley's voice went soft. Will you come home for Christmas? Please. We want to try again. We want to do it right this time. I looked around my apartment. Expensive, beautiful, empty. I'll come for Christmas Eve dinner and Christmas morning. Then I'm driving back because I have a meeting on the 26th. Really? You'll come. Really? But Ashley, if anyone, Trevor, Mom, anyone makes one comment about me being too busy or too focused on work or needing to find a man and settle down, I'm leaving. I mean it. Deal. I promise. Thank you, Nat. And one more thing. Anything. Next Thanksgiving, I'm hosting in New York. Anyone who wants to join me can come to the city. I'll order from that restaurant Mom loves, the one she always talks about from her trip here 10 years ago. Ashley laughed. She'll love that. Fair warning, though. Trevor's going to be super weird around you. He's terrified and impressed in equal measure. Good. You should be both. Christmas Eve at my parents' house in suburban Pennsylvania had a different feeling than any holiday I could remember. Dad hugged me at the door and held on longer than usual. Mom cried happy tears this time and immediately pulled out the Forbes article to show me, as if I hadn't read it myself. Emma and Noah attacked me with hugs and sticky fingers. Trevor shook my hand formally and said, "Thank you for coming, Natalie. And thank you for giving me the chance to prove myself. Keep proving it," I said, but I smiled when I said it. Dinner was chaotic in the way family dinners should be. Overlapping conversations, too much food, Dad's terrible jokes, Mom fussing over everyone. But something fundamental had shifted. When Mom asked about work, she actually listened to my answer. When Dad talked to his brother on the phone, I heard him say, "My daughter's a COO," with genuine pride. Ashley pulled me aside while we were cleaning up. "I got you something. It's not much, but..." She handed me a small box wrapped in silver paper. Inside was a keychain, simple silver with an engraving. World's best sister, even when we forget it. I hugged her then, really hugged her, and felt some of the old closeness return. Later that night, after Emma and Noah were in bed and the adults were having coffee in the living room, Trevor cleared his throat. I owe everyone an apology, but especially Natalie. He looked directly at me. I was intimidated by your success before I even met you properly. Ashley talked about her sister in New York, and instead of being curious or supportive, I felt threatened. When I found out what you really do, who you really are, I panicked. I thought you'd judge me or look down on our family. And now, I asked, now I understand that you've never been the problem. My insecurity was, you've been nothing but professional and fair. You held me to a standard and trusted me to meet it. That's more respect than I deserved. He looked at Ashley. And I'm sorry I asked you to exclude your sister from our family. That was wrong. Mom was crying again. Dad looked uncomfortable, but nodded approvingly. Ashley squeezed Trevor's hand. Thank you for saying that, I said. And for the record, I never wanted to be separate from this family. I just wanted to be myself and have that be enough. It is enough, Mom said. It's more than enough, sweetheart. We're so sorry it took us this long to show you that. We stayed up talking until midnight, and it felt like something had healed. The conversations flowed naturally about work, about family, about everything. Nobody diminished my career or suggested I was missing out by not having kids. Nobody made jokes about me being married to my job. Christmas morning was pure chaos, with Emma and Noah tearing through presents. Dad gave me a leather portfolio with Natalie Hartwell, COO, embossed on the front. Mom gave me a photo album filled with family pictures spanning 3 decades, with a note on the first page. So you remember where you come from, and so we remember to celebrate where you've gone. I drove back to New York on Christmas afternoon with a full heart and a backseat full of leftovers Mom had insisted I take. The city welcomed me back with its usual indifference, traffic, noise, energy. My apartment was quiet but no longer lonely. Work resumed after the holidays with the intensity I'd always thrived on. Trevor sent me a quarterly report in mid-January that showed a 15% increase in his territory's numbers. The note attached said simply, "Thank you for the opportunity to prove myself." I forwarded it to Linda with a message. This is what good management looks like. Ashley and I started talking every week. Real conversations about our lives, our challenges, our hopes. She asked questions about my work that showed genuine interest. I asked about Emma's school play and Noah's soccer games. We were rebuilding something better than what we'd had before. In March, I was featured in a Wall Street Journal piece about women in leadership. Dad called the day it published. I'm framing this one too, he said. And Nat, I'm sorry I ever asked when you got so hard. You're not hard. You're strong. There's a difference, and I should have known it. Thanks, Dad. Your mother wants to plan a party. She's calling it a celebration of Natalie's achievements. Fair warning, she's inviting everyone. The whole family, neighbors, probably the mailman. I laughed. Tell her to send me the details. The party happened in April at a restaurant in Philadelphia that Mom had researched for weeks. Extended family came, aunts, uncles, cousins I hadn't seen in years. Mom had created a slideshow of my career milestones. Dad gave a speech that made me cry. Ashley stood up toward the end of the evening. I want to say something about my sister. Growing up, I never understood why she was so driven, why she studied while I played, why she worked while I socialized. I thought she was missing out on life. She looked at me across the crowded room. But Nat wasn't missing out. She was building something. She was becoming someone. And instead of celebrating that, our family spent years making her feel like she had to choose between success and belonging. We were wrong. She deserves both. She's always deserved both. The room applauded. Trevor raised his glass. Mom wiped tears from her face. I stood and raised my own glass. To family, the one we're born into and the one we choose to build. And to second chances. The next morning, I drove back to New York with a full heart and a clear understanding. I'd never needed their approval to be successful, but having their genuine support and pride made the success sweeter. I'd proven I could stand alone, which meant I no longer had to. Trevor continued to excel in his role. He and Ashley bought a bigger house in June. Emma got her braces. Noah made the advanced reading group. And the following Thanksgiving, just as I promised, everyone came in New York. I rented out Mom's favorite restaurant for the whole family. We ate too much, laughed until we cried, and built new memories that had room for everyone I'd become. Because in the end, that's what mattered. Not the revenge, not the moment of revelation, but what came after. The rebuilding, the growth, the family that learned to celebrate every version of themselves, including the daughter who dared to be extraordinary. Trevor still calls me Ms. Hartwell at functions, which makes Ashley roll her eyes every time. But he does it with respect now, not fear, and sometimes that makes all the difference. I still work 12-hour days. I still love my career with a passion that some people don't understand. But now when I go home for holidays, I'm not shrinking myself to fit through the door. I'm walking in as exactly who I am. The CEO, the sister, the aunt, the daughter. All of it, without apology. And nobody asked me to ruin the vibe anymore.
New stories every day. You know where to find me.